Martin had lost hope regarding the future of the family restaurant, which had been operating for decades but now struggled to keep its doors open. Without seeing a solution, he came across a homeless woman at the entrance of the establishment, and by offering help he had no idea that he was about to completely change the fate of his restaurant. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda's Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. Martin took a deep breath as he turned the key in the restaurant's lock. Another difficult day was beginning, another battle in the war he had been fighting for 2 years to keep the family business afloat. Since his mother had passed away, the place had lost its soul. He entered the empty dining room, observing the perfectly set tables that would probably stay that way for most of the day. The waiters arrived shortly after, greeting him with discreet nods. Martin responded with a grunt. His grim face and serious demeanour did not match the welcoming atmosphere his mother had cultivated for decades. In the kitchen, the new chef was starting the preparations for lunch. Martin quickly checked the supplies and the finances as he did every morning. The numbers were not encouraging. The family savings, which he had been using to cover the monthly losses, were almost gone. While organising some receipts, Martin found himself gazing at the portrait of his mother hanging on the wall. She was beaming with joy, her eyes sparkling as she served a table full of smiling customers. That image perfectly captured the essence of the restaurant in its heyday, a warm, familiar place where people came not just to eat, but to feel at home. Martin closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He didn't have his mother's natural charisma, nor her skill in the kitchen. His talents were behind the scenes, negotiating with suppliers, financial management, logistics. Now he found himself having to take on a role for which he was unprepared, and the results were discouraging. The day passed slowly, with few customers occupying the tables. Martin discreetly observed as the waiters attended, trying to be as friendly and welcoming as his mother was. But his forced smile and tense posture fooled no one. In the late afternoon, while taking out the trash, Martin saw a familiar figure crossing the street. It was Mr. Jordan, one of the restaurant's oldest and most loyal customers. Or at least he used to be, since it had been months since Martin had seen him there. "Good afternoon, Mr. Jordan. It's been a while," greeted Martin, forcing an enthusiastic tone. "We haven't seen you around here lately." The grey-haired man stopped, somewhat embarrassed. "Oh, hello, Martin. How are things going?" "Well, tough times. But we're managing," replied Martin. Then, gathering courage, he asked, "Mr. Jordan, if you don't mind me asking, why did you stop coming to the restaurant? Did we do something wrong?" The old customer sighed, choosing his words carefully. "Look, Martin, you know how much my family and I loved coming here. Your mother was quite the character, God rest her soul, but, well, the place has lost that familiar atmosphere it used to have, Even the food seems different. It no longer has that homemade touch like it used to." Martin nodded, swallowing hard. "I understand. Well, thank you for your honesty, Mr. Jordan. I hope we can welcome you again soon." The man said goodbye with a wave and went on his way, leaving Martin standing on the sidewalk, the trash bag forgotten at his feet. Mr. Jordan's words echoed in his mind, confirming his worst fears. That night, after closing the restaurant, Martin remained seated alone in the empty dining room, his head in his hands. The dim light coming from the kitchen cast elongated shadows throughout the place. He looked up, observing the walls full of old photos. His smiling mother, the crowded dining room during festive days, colourful dishes freshly out of the kitchen. It was as if he were looking at a lost world. A noise from the street caught his attention. Martin got up and went to the door, intrigued. When he opened it, he was met with a surprising scene. A young woman was sitting on the sidewalk, hugging a small girl who was sleeping in her lap. "Miss, do you need anything?" Martin asked, feeling compassion for the situation. The woman lifted her face and Martin felt as if he'd been punched in the stomach. Those eyes. He would recognise them anywhere. "Jenny!" he exclaimed incredulously. The woman blinked, surprised, and then a flicker of recognition passed over her tired face. Martin, is that you? Martin couldn't believe it. There, sitting on the sidewalk in front of his restaurant, was Jenny, the girl for whom he and practically all the boys at school secretly sighed when they were teenagers. Jenny, with her golden hair and radiant smile, who seemed to float through the school hallways. Jenny, who now appeared to have the weight of the world on her shoulders. "My God, Jenny, what happened?" Martin asked, extending his hand to help her up. Jenny hesitated for a moment, then accepted the help, rising carefully so as not to wake the child in her arms. "It's a long story, Martin," she replied with a sad smile. "I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, does it? I ended up becoming my parents. A lot of wrong choices in my life." Martin vaguely recalled the rumours about Jenny's troubled family, parents always involved in messes, debts, legal problems. At the time, it seemed to only add to the mystery and fascination around her. Now, seeing her in that situation, Martin felt a pang of sadness. "Come in," he said, opening the door wider. "I'll prepare something for you to eat." Jenny hesitated again. "We don't want to bother you, Martin. We were just resting a bit before moving on." "Don't be silly," Martin insisted. "It's cold out here and you look like you need a hot meal. Please, come in." Reluctantly, Jenny followed him inside the restaurant. Martin led her to a table and quickly went to the kitchen, heating up some leftover dishes from dinner. When he returned with the food, he found Jenny looking around curiously. "So this is your family's famous restaurant?" she asked. "I remember you talking about it in school." Martin nodded, placing the plates on the table. "Yes, although it hasn't been in its best days lately." Jenny began to eat eagerly, while the little girl continued to sleep peacefully in her lap. Martin watched the two in silence for a few moments, thousands of questions passing through his mind. "Your daughter?" he finally asked, indicating the child with a gesture. Jenny nodded. "Sophia, she is 2 years old." "And the father?" "Not in the picture," Jenny replied curtly, making it clear she didn't want to go into details. Martin decided not to press the matter. Instead, he asked, "Jenny, where are you living?" She lowered her eyes, stirring the food with her fork. "At the moment, nowhere," she admitted in a low voice. "I lost my job a few weeks ago, and with that, the apartment. We're on the streets for now." Martin's heart tightened. Seeing Jenny, the girl he thought had the world at her feet, in that situation was shocking. Without thinking twice, he said, "You can stay here." Jenny looked up, surprised. "What?" "We have a room at the back of the restaurant," Martin explained. "It's not much, but it has a bed and a bathroom. You can stay there for now." "Martin, I can't accept this," Jenny protested. "You've already done too much by offering us this meal." "Please, Jenny," Martin insisted. "I couldn't sleep knowing you and your daughter are on the street. Stay, at least for tonight." Jenny bit her lip, clearly conflicted. Finally, she nodded. "All right. But just for tonight. And I want to help in some way. I can't stay for free." Martin thought for a moment. "Well, as it happens, I need help in the kitchen. One of the assistants quit a few days ago. Do you have experience?" Jenny's face lit up. "Actually, I do. I've worked in a few restaurants over the years." "Great," Martin smiled. "Then it's settled. You can help in the kitchen in exchange for lodging." The next morning, Martin woke up early, as usual. When he entered the restaurant, he found Jenny already in the kitchen, sorting ingredients and organising utensils. "Good morning," she smiled. "I hope you don't mind, but I woke up early and decided to start preparing a few things." Martin was surprised by the initiative. "Not at all. In fact, I'm impressed." Throughout the day, Martin watched Jenny work. She moved confidently around the kitchen, suggesting small changes here and there that seemed to make all the difference. The aroma emanating from the dishes was irresistible, reminding Martin of the times when his mother commanded the stove. During lunch, Jenny went out to the dining area a few times, chatting animatedly with the customers. Her warm smile and relaxed manner seemed to invigorate the environment. Martin noticed that for the first time in a long while, the restaurant seemed alive. At the end of the day, when the last customer left, Martin approached Jenny. "You were amazing today," he praised. "The customers loved you." Jenny blushed slightly. "Thank you. I really enjoyed working here. Your restaurant has something special, Martin." At that moment, Martin made a decision. "Jenny, I know I said just one night, but would you like to stay longer? At least for a week?" Jenny's eyes widened. "Really? You don't mind?" "Not at all," Martin assured her. "In fact, I think the restaurant and I could really use your help. I'll be out of town next week, selling a family property. It's our last attempt to raise funds to save the restaurant. Could you stay here, help in the kitchen and with the service?" Jenny didn't hesitate this time. "Sure, I'd love to. Thank you so much, Martin." In the days that followed before his trip, Martin watched in awe as Jenny brought a new energy to the restaurant. She not only cooked delicious dishes but also interacted with the customers in a way that reminded him of his mother. Little Sophia, always nearby, charmed everyone with her innocent smile and contagious laughter. When the time came to leave, Martin felt strangely reluctant. Part of him feared that upon his return he would discover that it was all just a dream, but he trusted Jenny and knew she would take good care of the place. "Good luck with the sale," Jenny said, giving him a farewell hug. "Don't worry, we'll take good care of the restaurant until you return." Martin smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude. "Thank you, Jenny, for everything." During the week he was away, Martin found himself constantly thinking about the restaurant and Jenny. The negotiations for selling the family house were stressful and exhausting, but the idea of coming back home kept him motivated. Finally, after 7 long days, Martin returned to his town. It was late afternoon when he arrived at the restaurant, carrying his suitcase. As he approached, he noticed something different. There was more activity than usual for that time of day. Soft music could be heard coming from inside. Intrigued, Martin opened the door and nearly dropped his suitcase in surprise. The restaurant was full, completely full. Families occupied the tables, chatting animatedly. The delicious aroma of homemade food filled the air. Waiters skillfully moved between the tables, serving dishes that made Martin's eyes widen. And there, in the centre of it all, was Jenny. She moved gracefully through the room, stopping at each table to chat with the customers, her smile lighting up the entire environment. Sophia followed her, charming everyone with her adorable presence. Jenny spotted Martin and came towards him, her face radiant. "Martin, you came back!" "Jenny, what? How?" Martin stammered, still trying to process the scene before him. Jenny laughed, taking him by the arm and guiding him through the restaurant. "Come, let me show you what we've done. I made some changes to the menu, I hope you don't mind. I used some of my grandmother's recipes. I thought a homemade touch would be nice." As Jenny led him from table to table, introducing him to the customers, many of whom were familiar faces Martin hadn't seen in months, he felt as if he were in a dream. The restaurant pulsed with life and energy, just like in the old days. "And that's not all," Jenny continued excitedly. "I made some posts on social media, promoting the restaurant. The response was amazing. People were eager to rediscover this place." Martin was speechless. In just 1 week, Jenny had achieved what he had been trying to do for 2 years. She had brought the soul of the restaurant back. That night, after the last customer left and they finished cleaning, Martin and Jenny sat at one of the tables, exhausted but happy. "Jenny, I don't even know how to thank you," Martin said, his voice choked with emotion. "What you did here is incredible." Jenny smiled, placing her hand over his. "No need to thank me, Martin. You welcomed us when we needed it the most. This is the least I could do." At that moment, looking into Jenny's eyes, Martin felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Hope. And something else. Something that made his heart race. In the months that followed, the restaurant flourished under Martin and Jenny's care. News of the establishment's revival spread quickly throughout the city, attracting not only the old customers back, but also a new generation of patrons. Jenny became the face of the restaurant, her warm smile and captivating personality making every customer feel special and welcome. Martin, in turn, found a new balance, alternating between the backstage and the dining area, his confidence growing day by day. Little Sophia, always present, became the unofficial mascot of the restaurant. Her contagious laughter and sweet demeanour charmed everyone, bringing a familial and cosy atmosphere to the environment. Over time, Martin and Jenny began to develop feelings for each other that went beyond friendship and gratitude. It was something subtle at first, glances that lasted a little longer, shy smiles exchanged over the steaming pots in the kitchen, casual touches that sent shivers through their skin. They began spending more time together outside of work hours. Martin would take Jenny and Sophia for walks in the park on Sundays. Jenny would prepare special dinners for Martin on his nights off. Gradually, a familiar and comfortable routine was established between them. It was on a starry night after closing the restaurant that Martin finally gathered the courage to express his feelings. They were sitting in the small backyard garden, Sophia already asleep inside. "Jenny," Martin began, his heart racing, "I don't even know where to start to thank you for everything you've done. You didn't just save the restaurant, you brought life back to this place. And to me." Jenny smiled, her eyes shining in the moonlight. "Martin, you saved us first, remember? I should be the one thanking you." Martin took her hands in his. "What I mean is, Jenny, I think I'm falling in love with you."
For a moment, silence lingered between them. Then, to Martin's relief and happiness, Jenny leaned in and kissed him softly.
"I am too, Martin," she whispered. "I'm falling in love with you too." From that moment on, Martin, Jenny and Sophia became a family. The restaurant continued to thrive, now truly a family business. Customers remarked on how the place seemed to radiate love and happiness. And so, what began as an act of kindness on a cold night turned into a story of rebirth, both for the restaurant and for Martin and Jenny. If you enjoyed, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment with a number from 1 to 5 to let us know how much you liked the story. Also, watch the video that is currently on your screen. See you soon.